Hey everybody, it's the 11th of March 2015, and it's a big deal in the news these days. It's a real big story about this guy this movie about this guy that, reveals to his girlfriend or whatever that he's all into bondage. And, I don't know what the big deal about it is. I haven't even really entertained the thought of even going to see this stupid. I hate to say it's stupid, but really, it is. If you want to get into that, just go down to the sex shop and, buy you some of that stuff. And, I'm not trying to sit here and rag on whatever people get into. It's not what I even really want to talk about, to be honest with you, But the point of the story is that, this is just a big mainline topic of discussion. I turn on Channel 5 News, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the news people were talking about this movie, and they just kept talking about it. And so, I said, well, if this is going to be such a big deal, then why not make a video and just say, obviously America has a bondage fetish with more people locked up than China. Just take advantage of the situation. It's not really something that I want to sit here and go over. The destruction of the world, and carry on about what people are into, and what movies are, what movies are going to, and all this. That's not even something that I even really wanted to touch on. I just really want to talk about how many people are really actually literally locked in cages. That's where my frustration lies. There's a million things going on in the world today, and I continually find myself back at this topic of people in cages, and the reason why is because that's a big problem. When you got, I hate to even laugh, but it's just, I'm just thinking about just the spectacle of this. When you got a million people plus, locked up in cages for not even crime, haven't even committed crimes. We're talking innocent people. You usually call that kidnapping, but in this case, it's being done on a massive scale. And that's where I come from, where I get the quote from Louis Mussolini, or Mussolini. Anyways, I forget his first name. Anyways, point of the story is, a million people is, one person is a tragedy, and a million is a statistic, because there's so many millions of people. People will just forget, just that they don't, you don't go to your local coffee shop and overhear people talking about how many people are locked up. Because, hey, those are statistics. It's a known fact. The government's out of control. What can you do about it? It just gets people upset. Forget about it, And, the unfortunate thing about it is that it is going on. And, I forget where I was going with this, but the point of the story is that I think that's probably where I was going with it is, just the tragic fact of the matter is that you're not going to turn on your news tonight and hear about how 6,000 innocent people, or whatever the statistic is, somewhere in the thousands of people are going to be enslaved tonight, or today, and those people are just going to be straight up enslaved, and then you got more than half of the remaining people in jail for the creation of crime. And I'm not just talking, the fact that homicide goes through the roof, and, homicide especially. You keep hearing the statistic about Denver, where they say that crime has dropped overall by 10%. Well, I mean, you ought to look at homicide. Homicide dropped by 50%. And that's just because there's not a black market being created there that really is, thrives on violence. I guess you could, if you want to use a word. Thrive actually isn't the right word. It would probably be, definitely creates violence. And it's just simple, It's just so simple that it's hard to even discuss it. And I see where people get frustrated even talking about it because it's just such a spectacle of just absurdity, The fact that this many people are just being taken in by the government every single day of the week for no good reason. Not only for no good reason, they're actually outright being kidnapped. Nobody's going to do any time for it, the kidnappings. And then on top of that, you create crime. You're creating crime. You're kidnapping people. You're creating crime, creating homicide. And, then on top of that, you've got, homicide, crime, there's a culture of crime that's created. There's HIV that happens as a result. I mean, just the amount of people that, the amount of percentage of reductions in HIV is one of the most astounding things. In countries that have decriminalized heroin, they found 71% decrease in HIV from shared needle use. And, it's just such an unbelievable spectacle. Not only that, but then the actual conviction rates for legitimate crime is decreased so substantially that I mean, it's such an act of violence, above and beyond just the simple act of kidnapping an innocent person. It's just unbelievable. I mean, the amount of violence that comes out of it. Kids getting taken into CPS, and I tell you what, I mean, I've met probably in my life, I want to say like 15 people that I've been through that I've actually been through CPS, and I want to say when it got down to getting to know these people, 2/3 of the time they were talking about having been molested, in these facilities. Not like just once or twice, but I mean, they would say, like 10, 15 times, a dozen times, or in the neighborhood of a dozen times, by different people, a dozen different people getting molested inside a CPS. I mean, it's the most unbelievable shit in the world. And, I met this guy. I was in Oklahoma, not something I'm really that ashamed of. I mean, I just would prefer not to probably even discuss it, if anything, but I was caught with some freaking marijuana, and they called it a felony in Oklahoma. And so I'm in there, and there's this dude, and he's sitting in there for methamphetamine. I think they found a little bit of powder residue in the bottom of a bag. And he ended up in prison, in jail. He's going to prison. I think he took a police sentence for 10 years. Can you imagine? Kidnapped, and now he's going to face 10 years of enslavement. And so that's the real scary thing, is that people are disappearing for, years and years at a time. And you're not seeing any kind of, huge outcry like you would expect. It's like reading, Diary of Anne Frank or something. I mean, that actually probably shouldn't be quite so surprising, considering who's about to run for president is a grandson to Prescott Bush, who both financed Hitler's rise, then bankrolled it via, several indictments he had with the United States government for money laundering for the Nazis. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And then trying to overthrow the United States and set up death camps. So the German government is appealing to the world and saying, please stop the rise of these brown shirts. They're being funded by Harriman Shipping Line. Everybody knows that. It's a historical fact. Prescott Bush was the president of Harriman Shipping Line. Then all the other facts that I just gave you, it was in the Dixie McCormick Committee. I mean, there's a BBC documentary about how he tried to overthrow the United States and set up a fascist dictatorship. I don't know how many more facts you need to prove the fact that they're going to set up death camps. And oh my God, I mean, gee willikers, we got more people locked up than China, and here comes his sons and grandsons along the way to go ahead and mop up the ashes of this dying country, to feed off the festering corpse. And there's just so many groups of people that just could give a rat's ass less, to be perfectly honest with you. There's plenty of people out there that just want welfare. There's plenty of people out there that as long as Obama's black and they're getting welfare, and it doesn't even matter if Obamacare has been a proven screw job. I mean, these people are so illiterate and oblivious to reality. I mean, they're still thinking it's a good deal. And they're singing its praises. And it doesn't even matter what the facts are. And this is the kind of stuff you got to contend with. And, I mean, between that and all these idiots who know every single thing about football, and their kids are getting, swung off into these institutions where they're getting enslaved 24 hours a day, put in a box with somebody who's probably going to rape them. Somebody, oh, it's just a mess, man. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's just a mess. It's a mess. Whites want to be black, and now they're going to prison and they're getting raped by blacks who they're trying to be cool like. And, I'm not trying to bash on blacks, but I mean, seriously, between the whole welfare situation and now you got the whole problem with the war, the drug war, which has, through the black market induced violence and the fact that blacks are targeted by the drug war, has created this alpha male complex based on their own particular, level of violence. It's become part of the culture. And now they think they're better than everybody. These are people that their home country is nothing but a bunch of tribesmen around naked. And they're better than everybody. And it's not that I'm trying to sit here and bash on them, but seriously, can we just be equals for once? It wasn't but 40 years ago, people were having to sit on the backs of buses and... anyways. And now here we are, you're better than me, Can we just be equals for once in the history of this stupid planet? Oh my God. And they love Obama. I don't believe I said a damn thing racist. If you think that, then go fuck yourself. That's where I'm coming from, because I already see through that fiction. I'm not worried about what somebody else is saying that I said. I know what I said. And I'll be damned if I'm going to stop saying what needs to be said because of some kind of false culture that's been created by this massacre. Anyway, America definitely has a bondage fetish. I'll tell you right now, I'm not perfect, but I mean, this place is a nightmare.